Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Welcome back to HR Week 2021. And naturally, if you just joined us, remember this is all about digital day, digital HR, everything you need to know in terms of how digital HR can really move forward with your companies and what you're doing, and really shaping the future of HR as well. Right. Again, just let me introduce myself. My name is Peter Hopwood, and I'm a storytelling coach, TEDx speaker coach, and I help people to tell stories. And if you're interested, remember on Friday afternoon towards the end of C-Level Day, I'll be sharing a short, sharp 20-minute guide on really ideas on really how to speak better in a virtual setting, how to really create that presence and chemistry, but above all, how to really share stories in a way that's going to make better connection and get closer to those outcomes. So if you're interested in that, remember Friday afternoon with me for 20 minutes, and that's all I'm going to give you. Right, we move on right now to data-driven employee experiences. If you haven't thought about that before or haven't spent too much time on that, maybe now is the time to do that. And it's all about really looking at those experiences and how it may affect those everyday experiences. This session is a real perfect opportunity to learn more about people data, about people analytics and diagnostics, and how it can really help that employee experience. And the man who's going to do that for us right now, give us more insights, please welcome to the virtual stage co-founder and CEO of Ognostic, which is in fact one of our global partners for HR Week 2021, Luka Babic. Luka, are you there?
I am. Thanks, Peter.
Fantastic. Great to have you with us. I guess, where are you right now? Belgrade, perhaps?
Belgrade, indeed. And this is my already well-known attic.
It's your well-known attic. Yeah. It's not well-known for us, maybe for you and your family, maybe not for the viewers, but we go upstairs and we come into your attic with you. Right. So we've got Luka Babic in his attic, and for the next 15-20 minutes or so, you're going to share with us your insights. Remember, towards the end, I'll come back on. Any questions we have, I'll ask those for you. Take it away, Luka.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Peter. So, hey, everyone, this is going to feel like talking to myself, but I guess that I would like to thank you for stopping by to listen to this digital talk, or talk about the data-informed employee experiences. To put it in more plain terms, today, what I'll try to explore is how to use your people data to basically inform employee experience strategies in the post-COVID era. And now there is a reason why COVID is actually one of the key words here. So in case you just woke up after a long hibernation, I'll just say that many things changed since 2020. So I'll try to talk about not so obvious changes that you actually might have missed, but that will, from my perspective, hugely impact the HR space. So for the start, we'll try. Oh, I'm not sharing the presentation. Okay, cool. That's a good thing to start. Okay, just a moment. I hope that you can see it now. Just the technical support, if you can confirm. Okay, cool. There it is. So again, I'll talk not about so obvious changes, and for the start, we'll try to explore what is so different today in the area of digital HR that will highly impact how we go about setting up employee experience strategies. My hope is that this intro will also explain well why now is actually the best time that there ever was to start using data for building HR strategies. And we'll then try to conclude with some specific analyses we found to be very useful when defining employee experience. If there is time to allow us, we can go into implementation details, and you can find, if you find this topic to be interesting, you could always basically join me later in the HR cafe or some of the networking sessions. So to start us off, to understand why is now the best time to start with your people analytics, I'll start by telling one story. And this is a story of remote work-induced manager anxiety. Now, it's a complex phrase, but I'll try to use a graph to explain what I mean by that. So here's my little Cartesian XY scatter plot with some illustrative data here. And on the x-axis here, what you can see is the representation of employees' distance from the office. 0 here means that every team member is in the team or in the company is basically co-located and working from the office, and 100 means all the people are being fully remote, working from whatever God forbidden place. And here on the left side, we have this little mock measurement of managers' lack of a sense of control. So the 0 here means, okay, I can see everyone is working, so they must be working, to 100 meaning, how many employees do I even have? What do they do? And do they even work? So back in 2019, our little manager over here was pretty confident that being physically close to other people, they would have the ability to better sense whether their teams are productive or not. And this is actually a real thing. I mean, I sound like I'm joking, but in psychology, this is a term that is called a proximity bias. And proximity bias is basically observed in a tendency of managers to perceive you to be a better employee due to the mere fact that you're close to them. And if you were working in a remote setup even before 2019, what would you have likely observed is that people that were much closer to the HQs have usually had more opportunities for growth, more promotion opportunities, etc. So what suddenly happened to the organization is that they moved on this x-axis from 0 to 100 in basically overnight, right? So what happened to managers is that they started losing their mind about this new setup. So with proximity bias being off the table, managers started thinking about the best ways to keep their cool and things under control. And to a certain extent, this was a management wake-up call. Now they don't see the people around them in a familiar setup, so they're invited to do something about those employees to regain control. And this caused, I would say, a massive wave of fear about employee productivity, about retention, about employee experience. Although in reality, the elements of team effectiveness are not all that different in the co-located teams versus fully remote setup. And even before 2020, we already had all the necessary technology to manage teams in the remote setup. But this sort of anxiety has caused a massive changes in the HR technology space, which is hugely impacting the HR practice itself. And this is a story that I'm linking to the digital HR topic that we have for this day. So in the push to basically digitize these HR processes and try to get a grip of all the employees, what some of the studies in 2020 found, this is particularly one from PricewaterhouseCoopers, is that around 74% of the companies that they surveyed, which is around 600 companies in total, reported that they're increasing the HR tech budgets with an average of 30% increase, which is quite a significant bump to happen in a single year. And we have also seen a sort of hysterical behavior when it comes to companies starting to buy all the different best-in-class vendors to manage particular processes. So if we had trends in HR tech previously that were all about centralizing data and using solutions that are SAP-like or Workday-like, what is happening ever since is that we are seeing that more companies are trying to find best-in-breed solutions to manage particular elements of their process. So more companies are basically using several different vendors to cover different processes that they're managing as a department. And as a result of that, what we have seen is that there's a record number of HR tech unicorns in the past year, and that's 15 companies. So in all of history, basically, you had 10 companies in HR tech space that were achieving to a $1 billion valuation, and only 1 year we have seen 15 HR tech companies getting to that status. So you might be wondering, why is this important for HR? Well, all of this money that is flowing into HR tech is actually investment in the strengthening of the position of HR within companies. So if we see investors in markets that are betting that this is a great new space for innovation, it is actually a place where CHROs right now around the world can ride this wave of money that is poured into HR investments to actually take a better positions for themselves. So if there was ever a time, now is actually the right time to push for HR budgets to increase and introduce needed support for something that was traditionally understaffed and overworked team. Now let's go back to the story. What does this have to do with data-informed employee experience? So the usage of HR tools, in its essence, is crucial. It is absolutely basic when it comes to proper collecting and storing of human capital data. So by the sheer usage of these tools, what they do is they package data into certain structures that are much easier to maintain and keep than the good old Excel that we are all too familiar with, right? So with many applications right now that are being used for different HR processes management in the companies, and much earlier in life cycle, we now have the access to abundance of data about employees. So most companies now are basically ditching their Excels and introducing tools to manage specific process. And by itself, this is increasing the quality and quantity of data that is being stored. Also, as COVID era is basically characterized with this less face-to-face communication and less frequent interactions with employees, this data is opening the new doors of exploring employee experience and understanding your organization in a more tangible and a more quantitative way. So now you can capture basically everything from the talent acquisition and candidate experience through your applicant tracking systems to payroll, rewards, organizational changes through your HRIS, the promotion, performance, feedback through your performance management tools, a learning experience through learning management softwares, employee sentiment through employee engagement and survey softwares, etc. And my theory is basically that the reason why HR has traditionally been lacking this data orientation as opposed to functions like finance and marketing, it is not because of the lack of the talent or competencies in these teams, but it was just due to the sheer fact that the data was not there yet, and the degree of digitalization of HR processes has been lacking. So if there ever was time that even small companies had the opportunities to store good and useful amounts of data about employees, and that time is now. And if there ever was a time that that HR was more in focus, that time is now. So with that being said, I wanted to actually share some of my experiences about some useful analysis that can help shape your strategy for the next year. So in the past 2 years, basically, my sole focus has been on helping companies grow and set their people analytics practices. And what I'll share in the next couple of minutes is some of the learnings that our team got along the way. So by all means, this is not a definitive guide on setting up people analytics or similar. It's more the exploration of what are some of the most crucial analytics that maybe you can conduct at this moment that could really feed in well your post-COVID strategy, as well as strategy for going into 2022. And I'll also try to look into some of the metrics and some of the types of analyses that are not usual suspects, but that are readily available from some of the data that you can usually find in the companies that are already using some of the tools that I've mentioned. So these analytics are generally related to recruitment and onboarding experience, interdepartmental collaboration, environmental support, and retention analysis. So these 4 areas have been particularly in focus for the past year and a half to 2 years. And I'll try to use the remaining time, some less than 10 minutes, to scratch the surface by showing some of the examples of the analysis that we can do, and the element of employee experience that can require your focus. If you have any sort of questions afterwards, feel free to connect over LinkedIn or just join me today during the HR week to talk about specific implementations and how these things can really help you in setting up your particular people analytics practices. So let's start with the first. And the first part of the analytics is the analysis of recruitment and onboarding experience. So with the high growth and change volumes that are happening right now in a bunch of companies around the globe, talent acquisition has actually been a hot topic, and there's a particular element of pipeline analytics that is an extremely powerful technique of capturing the efficiency of your hiring process. So most of the HR tools that are used for tracking recruitment process, most of the ATSs, right, usually don't have the analytics that are going in depth, but almost all of them, which is a great news, are allowing you to extract the raw data and play with that. What I found to be very useful in setting up kind of employee experience and candidate experience tracking setup is looking at the stage conversion flows and times in stage. And why is this important is because it can help you determine the consistency of your hiring process. So the consistency here is basically overview to the fact that we can see whether there is an actual structure in your funnel, or people are just jumping from a position to position or from a flow to a flow. And we can also explore how much time they're actually spending and what are the differences between the experiences. So what are the standard deviations that you're experiencing in particular stages that some candidates are facing as opposed to the others. The more consistency that you have within the business unit, basically, there's a higher likelihood that you would create better experience for your future employees. And the other thing that is a residual of this is that you can build even brand ambassadors out of your candidates by improving this kind of experience. So now that you have this this kind of recruitment funnel set up and you're tracking the consistency of your process, the next thing is linking this to your onboarding data. Usually a helpful thing would be to send onboarding surveys right after employees start, and then through the review process within the first 90 days. And with this, you can collect both employee experience and their manager's experience about this onboarding process and the fitting into the company. In this 90 days period, what you can unlock is a measurement called quality of hire, right? And the quality of hire to me has been one of the holy grail metrics when it comes to recruitment, because it links what happens after, which is quite usually missing in recruiters' minds. So once you hire a person, what happens 90 days after they're hired, whether you have achieved what you were looking for. And it can feed a lot of different feedback loops afterwards, where you can look into, how is quality of hire correlated to your efficiency of sources or the quality of your referrers, or whether there are certain recruiters or hiring managers that have better assessment capabilities. Okay, so that's one. The next one would be the analysis of interdepartmental collaboration. And I've seen this mostly with the rising popularity of tools like Lattice, Leapson, or 15.5 or similar tools that are basically used for goals, performance, feedback, and praise. So in the remote setup, these tools are introduced to basically encourage collaboration and feedback sharing between teams, departments, individuals in the company. So with the data flowing from these tools, you're basically getting a growing ability to construct networks of collaboration and determine the health of relationships in the organization. And this is a very cool way of doing it, right? Because it's not an intrusive way of looking into data. So it's not going into chat data or email data. It's looking into the ways the patterns of collaboration are happening based on how people are praising each other and who's actually working on which projects with whom. So just by tracking how people are praising or giving feedback to each other across different teams, it allows you to potentially detect what are the isolated groups. In a remote setup, this is particularly interesting just because, with people being isolated almost completely without being proactive, they can really experience the differences when it comes to their experience of communication with other employees. You can also use this data to overlay it with engagement information. So once you design interactions and engage employees, you can basically track whether the engaged employees are the super connectors, and through time also manage the risk. So to see whether the super connectors are becoming more emotionally fatigued or cynical about their work, and as that may impact their wider network of people, right? So if you haven't already, I highly encourage you to explore these types of tools. They have many great solutions out there. A couple more, elements here that we can explore. And I'm not sure if someone joined as well. Peter, you're here. How much time?
Yeah, we're kind of like almost out of time, but hey, if you can squeeze this in and then
I can.
then we can wrap up. Fantastic. Okay.
I can. So there's a particularly pressing topic in the past year that's been burnout. I mentioned this previously, and actively tracking potential burnout risk by using employees and surveys. There's an instrument called Christine Maslach's Burnout Index. It can help you determine what are the groups of employees that are at a higher risk of burnout. So we suggest that the companies do the driver analysis of their own data and try to find what are the particular roles, whether there is a tenure or groups of employees that are high risk of burnout. What we found in our study is that it was mostly senior employees, long tenured employees, team leaders that experienced this higher likelihood of burnout. And what we saw that decreased the likelihood of burnout is environmental support elements like psychological safety and peer support. There are elements of different tracking of retention, like turnover and looking at survival analyses and looking into exit interviews from a little bit of a different perspective, where we can check, what are the kind of things that employees are expecting to gain or lose by moving to the next employer, that can really reveal both the quantitative and the qualitative side of why people are leaving the company right now. Again, I see that we're at the time. I think we started a bit later as well. So I'll leave all of this, and if you're interested or engaged into doing something like this, I'd be more than happy to connect along the way over LinkedIn or just throughout the networking event today. So thank you.
I have to say, very intriguing indeed. And what you just said there at the end right now about employees that are maybe slightly older or more experienced, and some of the ways of really reducing that tension is the psychological safety, that environment there around can really help reduce that. So really intriguing. So again, listeners, if you're intrigued, you're curious, you'd like to know more, certainly reach out to Luka. Luka, in fact, is not just a speaker here at HR Week, but certainly helped us really find a lot of the speakers that are today and throughout the week as well. So a real kind of a backbone of HR Week 2021. Luka, thank you so much for your expertise and above all for your time. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Peter. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Right, we move on very shortly to our next session, which is all about empathy at scale.